I wanted to give an example of a situation in which an experiment with random assignment couldn't be done, and a non-equivalent groups design would have to be done instead. If a researcher wanted to compare two different teaching methods, like, let's say, lecture and activity, the researcher couldn't randomly assign the participants to two groups and then put one group into an activity class and the other group into a lecture class. That's because students typically pick their own classes. A student isn't going to let a researcher assign them to a class. So in that study, a researcher would have to select two classes that are already formed and assign one class to be taught with activity and the other class to be taught with lecture, and then compare the performance of the two classes. So in educational research, like in research comparing teaching methods, random assignment isn't possible, so you have to use a non-equivalent groups design instead. You have to assign pre-existing classes to different conditions. So I just thought that would be a good example to share with you. I wanted you to get an idea of when a non-equivalent groups design would have to be used, because random assignment isn't possible. And educational research isn't the only example, but it's one that I really wanted to highlight. I think in the last video I shared an example of a study in which I teach two sections of Psych 120, and I give one class quizzes and the other class no quizzes. I would have to do that study as a non-equivalent groups design as well, because I couldn't randomly assign my students to the two sections of 120. They would register on their own, and I would have to just take my two pre-formed classes, my two classes that are already formed, and give one class quizzes and the other class no quizzes. And I wanted to remind you that in the last video I said that quasi experiments are done when true experiments with random assignment are not possible. And that generally means in real world situations, like in education or in workplaces, or in similar situations.